If you are feeling like, oh God, I haven't achieved anything, I haven't achieved what I wanted to achieve, I didn't achieve my goals, I didn't set any goals, I feel like I'm behind, I feel like I'm wasting my life, just remember that this is kind of a good thing. I want you to take this kind of meta perspective. You are having a crisis right now because you want better things for your life and you want the best for yourself in your life every year. And you just want to make the most of every moment. And isn't that great? Isn't that great that you're having a bit of a meltdown and you're having a bit of a mentee bee just because you want the best for yourself? I think that's wonderful. And I would so much rather be having regularly programmed meltdowns about how can I make my life better? How do I want my life to be better? What goals should I set? Have I achieved this? X, Y, Z. I would so much rather be having meltdowns about that than be completely consumed with apathy and ambivalence and not really caring about my life and what I achieve and just kind of like letting the years go by without any conscious thought or awareness. So I think that's such a thing to celebrate. And if you are kind of stressing about this right now, I just want you to remember that the fact that you are stressing about this right now is a great thing. I'm scrolling TikTok at 3 a.m. because my nervous system's too fucked to go to sleep and I feel too anxious to put my phone down. Is that why I'm having an existential crisis? There are always going to be a million other things you could have decided to do. I'm broken. It is a rite of passage for any girls who, oh my God, wait, look at my Christmas mug. He's called Bart. Got him from Tesco, £3 with a club card, maybe £3.50, can't remember what. Well, I'm actually going to drop that. I feel like it is a rite of passage for any girls who want more for their lives, who, for any of like personal development loving girls, any girls who are like, okay, I want to live better, I want to live more, I want to live for when I'm 90 so that when I have a croak in my throat. So when I look back, I love my life and I don't regret anything. For all of those girls, if you relate to any of that, I feel like it kind of goes without saying that around this time of year, you are going to start feeling a bit of an existential crisis, have a little bit of a mentee bee about what you've achieved and what you've accomplished. And you're going to start thinking about like, oh God, have I done everything? Have I optimized my year? Have I done everything I should have? Start thinking about all of the things that you haven't done, things that you regret. I am here to tell you, I am here to help you today. I'm going to help you exhale and alleviate some of that stress. So if you are in that category where you're feeling like, God, did I waste this year? Should I have done more? You're looking at the goals that you set for the beginning of the year and you're like, oh God, I didn't do any of those. And if that's stressing you out, this is the episode for you. Okay, let's do the check-in for the morning. Remember, if you want to add a little piece of paper to the check-in jar, the first way you can do that is you can come to my house, DM me, and if you actually listen to the podcast, I will give you my address and you can come to my house. We can also do an episode together. So if you actually want to do that, maybe you're in England or you're taking a trip to England. I'm being 100% serious, by the way. If you want to do an episode together, let me know and we'll actually make it happen and you can put a piece of paper in the jar. Alternatively, if you're not insane, in a good way like me, and you just want to put a thing in the jar like in a non-invasive coming into my house way, there's a link in my description and you can submit one digitally and I will write it on a piece of paper. But less fun, but still it gets you involved. Okay, the check-in for this morning is I love this one. This is perfect. This is so in keeping with the topic of today's episode. It is, what is something you don't celebrate yourself enough for? There is no way that's going to focus. What is something you don't celebrate yourself enough? Oh wait, what is something you don't celebrate about yourself enough? Mine, I already immediately know what the answer to mine is. And the answer to mine, I can't believe how poignant this one is for this episode. Okay, the thing that I don't celebrate myself enough, and again, feel free to pause this, get your journal, write this out, just grab your phone, write some notes down. What do you not celebrate about yourself enough? Mine is definitely the fact that I have, over the past 3 years, supported myself financially, 4 years really, supported myself financially through my own means and like being a freelancer, like being my own boss, being a girl boss. I think I'm always so focused on where I want to be and like the new projects that I'm working on. I'm focusing on the podcast. I'm like, oh God, I'm starting this whole thing from scratch, like a new business, a new entity from scratch almost, with we're all like other girls, and I focus on how much money I want to be making and all of the things I want to achieve, and I see what everyone else is achieving, I forget that Polly at the end of 2019, who was, maybe I should tell the story at some point in depth, but was so fucking miserable with her life, just disliked so much about her life. I was working in a shop, I was working in Bed Bath & Beyond in New Zealand. And I think if I told her that, hey, if you stick at this, at what you're doing, you are going to have the craziest 4 years of your life, and you are going to try so many things. You're going to do things you never even imagined, and you're going to actually make money through skills that you are going to develop, and people are actually going to pay you to work for them and work with them. That is cool and that is crazy. But I think especially like social media has normalized it completely, because when I talk to people who aren't on social media about it, they're like, oh my God, that's so cool. Like you get to do all of this like freelance stuff and like you do your own creative stuff. But when I go online, I just feel so regular and so mundane and so almost like shit at what I do, because it just seems like everyone else is doing so much better. So I don't celebrate myself enough for that. And that is huge. And this is something that I, regardless of where this goes, where my life goes, where my life takes me, I will always be so proud of the fact that for the past 3-4 years, nearly 4, I have committed to myself, and I've chosen myself, and I've chosen this life, and I've continued to choose this life even when it has just been really and it has just felt like the easiest option would have probably just been to get another job. So I'm so proud of that, and I love that. And I love journal prompts. So please, before you continue this episode, because this will be a really, really good way to start this episode, and it segues perfectly into the first point that I have about how to overcome your mentee B over the fact that you feel like maybe you wasted this year, or you just didn't achieve enough, or you should have achieved more. This is the perfect prompt to start you off on. So go and write on this prompt. Okay, so if you are feeling like you're having a little mentee B, I want you to remember that this is actually a good thing. If you are kind of feeling like, oh God, I haven't achieved anything, I haven't achieved what I wanted to achieve, I didn't achieve my goals, I didn't set any goals, I feel like I'm behind, I feel like I'm wasting my life, just remember that this is kind of a good thing. I want you to take this kind of meta perspective of what's going on. I want you to watch yourself having this experience right now, if you can. Maybe take some mushrooms, smoke a joint. No, I'm just kidding. I will not be doing that because it is 11 a.m. Take this meta perspective. You are having a crisis right now because you want better things for your life, and you want the best for yourself in your life every year. And you just want to make the most of every moment. And isn't that great? Isn't that great that you're having a bit of a meltdown and you're having a bit of a mentee B just because you want the best for yourself? I think that's wonderful. And I would so much rather be having regularly programmed meltdowns about how can I make my life better? How do I want my life to be better? What goals should I set? Have I achieved this? X, Y, Z. I would so much rather be having meltdowns about that than be completely consumed with apathy and ambivalence and not really caring about my life and what I achieve, and just kind of like letting the years go by without any conscious thought or awareness. So I think that's such a thing to celebrate. And if you are kind of stressing about this right now, I just want you to remember that the fact that you are stressing about this right now is a great thing. I think that's so positive because it means you care. It means you care about your life. It means you want a lot for yourself. It means you just want more for yourself and you want great things for yourself. And like, why is that a bad thing? Like, that is such a fantastic thing. Next thing I want you to remember is to not make any plans or make any changes, or don't sit down and kind of reflect on your goals and try and look back, because I think that is so important. And I'm probably going to make an episode about that, about me doing mine. I'm probably going to record an episode of me reviewing my actual goals from this year and seeing which ones I've achieved. But don't sit down and do that for yourself when you're feeling in this space of, oh God, I've wasted the year. Have I achieved anything? I should have done more. When you're kind of like looking at everyone else reflect on their year and they're like, oh, look at how much money I made. Look at how successful my business is. Look at all of this travel I did. I fell in love and I got engaged and I had a baby and don't look at your own goals and your own life when you're feeling like that, because nothing good comes from that. When you are already feeling like this, the best thing you can do for yourself is to kind of transmute that energy into the feeling that I described at the beginning, of feeling that you should feel proud of yourself and you should feel excited by the fact that you are wanting the best for your life, you need to feel like that. You need to feel excited about the fact that you are in a crisis and that you just want the best for yourself. You need to feel positive about it before you can do anything about it. And so something that really helps me, I'm kind of in the middle of planning my scrapbook for the year. So I want to get into this habit every year of making a scrapbook of the year, because I take so many photos and I keep loads of things. Like, I'm becoming more sentimental with age. I'm starting to keep like tickets from things and receipts from special things and like wristbands from gigs and stuff like that. So I want to put them all into a scrapbook. And I was going through my pictures yesterday, kind of putting them into Canva and making them the right size, and nothing made me feel more positive than going through my camera roll. And it wasn't even like the big things like, oh, I went to this country, or I did this huge, like went to this festival, blah, blah, blah. The things that made me like smile and think, oh God, what a nice year, was a picture of the pub meal that I went to with my grandpa before I went to the US, and like a beach day that I went on with my sisters that I kind of forgot about because it was just, in the grand scheme of things, inconsequential, but also one of the most important things ever, because it just, like, those things are so important. And so go through your camera roll. This is maybe homework, okay? Go through your camera roll when you're feeling this way, because what your goal is, right, is to kind of feel, the reason you're feeling like this, and what we kind of want by the end of this episode, is for you to feel like you didn't waste this year. Things are all good, and you have so much time, and we're just going to plan the next year and plan your next step, and then things are going to be good. Go through your camera roll when you're feeling like this, and every month, go through month by month and find 3, 4, 5 cute little things that you did each month that you can celebrate. Even if it was like you went for a coffee, you read a good book, you screenshotted a good quote that really spoke to you, you went out with your mum, you bought a nice candle, because I just bought some new candles and I was looking at them. Whatever it is, go through and just do that until you can be like, oh, okay, maybe I didn't waste this year. Maybe there were good parts. Maybe the whole thing wasn't this like monumental, grandiose adventure like people on Instagram are having, but you had things in your year that made your life worth living, and those are the important things to remember. So go and do that first. That was kind of an actionable thing. The rest are kind of going to be mindset things. I want these to kind of shift you out of that feeling of you wasted this year and you're an utter failure and everything you do is garbage and you should probably just leave the face of the earth, because obviously none of that is true. Life is short, but it's also long. And I think phases of our lives can feel very final. Every phase of your life that you're in feels like the only phase of your life that you're ever going to have. And I think this is felt even more strongly when you are in a place that maybe you don't like, or a phase that you don't want to be in. For example, when I was in New Zealand, I was very, very unhappy. I was suffering with a severe bout of depression. I kind of even have resistance to saying that, because I think it was more like just situational depression than like clinical depression. I was very, very unhappy, and it felt so final, or it felt like I was never going to get out of it. And I'd succumb to this feeling that this was all I was ever going to feel. I was always going to be unhappy. I was never going to feel loved or connected to the world. I was always just going to feel grey and dark. 2 months later, I started my freelancing journey. I mean, and you know where it started, if you know where it started. Episode 1 of We're All Like Other Girls, I talked about it there. Everything changed. Within 2 months of me being in New Zealand in that house, within 2 months of just like kind of small changes, to be honest, everything in my life changed within 2 months. And it's not like everything changed and now everything was good for the rest of my life, but there are so many examples of that. Like this time 2 weeks ago, I was strutting around the streets of New York City, living my best life, eating croissants in Central Park, walking over the Brooklyn Bridge. Now I'm in my hometown looking at my Christmas tree that my sister and I had put up, and we're about to go shopping and buy ourselves Christmas pajamas so we can have the coziest December of our entire lifetime. Things change so quickly, like your life can change so quickly, and all of these phases of your life are just that. They are just phases. And so maybe this year you feel like your life hasn't been exactly what you wanted it to be. Maybe you set goals to make more money or have more fun or start a new hobby or make growth in whatever areas. Maybe you wanted to get fitter. I don't know what you wanted to do, but maybe you set those goals and maybe you're not exactly where you want to be, with those goals. But believe me when I tell you, things can change so quickly. When I was in Mexico, I've told this story before, I went from, within 2 weeks, I went from not having any idea how I was going to make money. I had no clients. I was kind of pivoting what I was doing. I didn't really know what I was going to do. I was just pivoting out of what I was doing because I didn't like what I was doing. Within 2 weeks, I'd been reached out to by multiple brands. I had signed multiple contracts to do multiple freelance content creation roles. And all of a sudden, I went from making no money and being like, oh God, what am I doing? I'm a failure, to making more money than I'd ever made from content creation. And that was literally within 2 weeks. And so I just think, remember, whatever phase of your life you're in, if you're sitting thinking, I'm not where I want to be, trust and believe that phases of your life can change so quickly, even sometimes without you doing an awful lot. And just remember, again, it's like taking that meta, that bird's eye view. Your life is just built up of different phases, and you're not going to be in this phase forever. Wherever you are right now, whether you love it with all of your heart or you're having an existential crisis because you couldn't love a single thing in the phase of your life that you're in right now, neither of those phases are going to last forever. It might change next week. It might change next month. It might change in August next year. But whatever it is, whatever phase of your life you're in, it's not going to stay stationary, because your life is just a constant flowing stream. So just remember that, remember these things, that this isn't going to last forever. And you could probably change it relatively easily or relatively quickly. Things can change quite quickly. So just remember that. My next point is never miss twice. I say this to myself all of the time. Damn, I'm getting fired up now. I'm getting jittery. Never miss twice. Now, this is kind of bordering on the edge of Chad, the biohacking bro. So please forgive me for that. So maybe this year you said you were going to start a podcast and you didn't. I'm just using that example because I'm self-centered, like all human beings. And obviously my goal was to start a podcast. Well, it actually wasn't to start a podcast, but we'll get into my goals at another time. I don't want to make this about me. This is about you. I feel like you remember at the beginning when I told you I'd taken mushrooms and crack? No, I didn't say I took crack. Anyway, maybe you said at the beginning of this year you were going to start a podcast and you didn't. Okay, you missed once. Doesn't matter. You said you were going to start a podcast and you didn't. Fine. Are you going to miss again? No. You told yourself you were going to do it once and you didn't, and that's fine. People make mistakes, things happen. But if you choose to not do it again, twice, that's a choice. So you never miss twice. Cool, you didn't do it then, now you're going to do it. So now pick up a mic, babe. Maybe you don't even need a mic. Pick up your phone, record something, post it, then you've started a podcast. Okay? Never miss twice. And this can be applied to enormous things like that, or just small things. I use this for habits that I'm trying to implement. If I said I really want to start a meditation habit, I'm going to meditate every single morning. Maybe I'll meditate for 6 days, and then on the 7th day, I won't do it. Okay, that's fine. I missed once. I'm not going to miss it again. The next day, without a shadow of a doubt, I'm making a commitment to myself. It's like a contractual agreement that I never miss twice. So if you feel like you've wasted your year, or if you feel like there were things that you really wanted to do this year that you just didn't, fine. You can't go back and change it unless you have a time machine, in which case send me a DM. If you can't go back and change them, that's fine. So there's really no point in dwelling on that. All you can do now is decide how you're going to move forward. And if you never miss twice, looks like you're going to start that habit or start that thing that you said you were going to do at the beginning of the year, because you never miss twice. Best advice ever. That is one of those personal development things that I heard, and it just kind of changed my life in an undramatic way. So the next one is appreciate the season that you're in, even if you don't want to be in that season particularly. And I don't want to be like, oh, be grateful for all the things that you have, because sometimes you don't feel grateful. Sometimes you're like, no, I actually do want to be making more money. I'm not I can't pretend to be happy about the fact that I'm working minimum wage and I can't afford to do all the things that I want to do. But appreciate the fact. And you can always find things in your life that you can appreciate with the knowledge that they aren't going to last forever. Appreciate things with the knowledge that they aren't going to last forever. For example, a really good example of this, an example my friends and I use quite a lot, is being single. Maybe you're single right now, but you obviously, well, what a crazy thing to say, not obviously. Maybe you're single right now, but your kind of end goal is you want to be married. You want to find your person. You've been watching Grace Beverly's engagement unfold and you're thinking, damn, I really want to fall in love. I want to find my person. But right now you're not. Right now you're super single. You don't have anyone in mind. Okay, you can appreciate that this is not where you want to be. And you can also appreciate that maybe that you know that one day, maybe super soon, maybe not so soon, but one day you're going to find that guy and you're going to be in a relationship, and then you're going to have things now that you aren't going to be able to have then. Think about now, the amount of freedom that you have, the amount that you can really just put yourself first with nobody else to think about. Tomorrow you could move to Switzerland if you wanted to, really, without consulting anybody, because you don't have that person yet. And I know you want that person. If you meet that guy next year, this is the last single phase of your life that you're going to have, at least for a long period of time. And so appreciate the things that you have now with the knowledge that you're working to something better. Kind of the same with my business, right? Like, I've just started this podcast. Would I like it to grow into something? Do I want it to grow into a community of women where we can do events and we can do things together and it brings women together on a bigger scale? Yes, I do. That was the initial decision to make this podcast, and that's where I'm working to grow it towards. But once I have that, and once that's a thing, there are going to be things that I have in my life right now that I'm not going to have then. For example, time and like a lack of pressure. Once there's loads of eyeballs on this podcast, there's going to be a level of pressure. There's going to be more pressure for the podcast than there is now. And so even though I know where I want to be with the podcast and with We're All Like Other Girls, the brand, right now I can appreciate, wow, this is such a fun time for experimentation, and there's no pressure to be showing up in a certain way. I can try lots of different things because it doesn't have the eyeballs, so there's less expectation, so I can experiment. And this is not a phase I'm going to have when I move into that phase that I want. And so just remember, what is that phrase where it's like, oh, one day you'll be dreaming of what you have now? I don't fucking know. Appreciate the season that you're in, even if you're trying to be somewhere else. Okay, the next thing is you are not a tree. Obviously, you are not a tree. Obviously. Name that movie, Harry Potter, obviously. You are not a tree. And so if you have appreciated, if you have looked at your year this year and you've thought, okay, this is not who I want to be long term. This is not the year I wanted to have. Maybe there were other things that I would have rather spent time on. There are other things I want to do. Cool. You have the autonomy to do those things. You don't have to commit to the lifestyle that you have committed to up until this point just because you have done it for a long time. You can let go of the sunk cost fallacy that because you've put in so much time to something, you can't let it go and it means more, and you feel, I know that people feel more committed to paths the longer they stay at them. You're not, and you can change, even if you feel like you can't and you feel like, God, the amount of people that say, oh, I wish I could do this, but I can't. Like, I've just been doing this for so long. Okay. Yeah, you have been doing that for so long. Do you want to do it for the rest of your life? If you don't, maybe change. I'm confused. And I know sometimes it's not always that easy, but I think that's often and maybe this will ruffle some feathers, we use that as an excuse and we think we're the anomaly. We think, yes, for most people it is as easy as that. Most people aren't trees, most people can do that, but we think I'm the anomaly. I'm the person that it's not as easy for. It's always easier said than done, but I think we make it harder in our minds than it actually could be. Maybe because we're afraid, maybe because it's just easier to stay where you are and be unhappy than it is to try something new. And I appreciate that so much. But ultimately, regardless of whether it is hard for you, regardless of whether you have a million reasons why you should keep doing what you're doing, even if you're unhappy, the reality is that one day you're going to be 90 and you're going to be looking back on your life. And if this life right now that you're living is not the type of life that you think you would want to look back on, then maybe something has to change. Wow, I really feel like I'm in my Tony Robbins era right now. I really do feel like we make it more complicated than it is, and we think it's not that simple, but I think most of the time it kind of is, unless you have kids and big responsibilities. But I think most of the time it is that simple, and we just choose to believe and think thoughts and build beliefs that affirm to us that it isn't simple, because that gives us an out. That gives us an excuse that we can blame as to why we're not where we want to be and why we aren't making those decisions. Because if you believe heart of hearts. But I'm sure that you don't. If you're listening to this and you're still listening, you don't believe this. But if you believe that it's too hard and that it's different for you and that you have too many responsibilities and it's just you can't, then it's easier to be able to blame that and feel kind of jaded but validated in the fact that you haven't tried to live the life that you want to live. Realistically, the only person that's going to harm is you, because you're going to be looking back at your life when you're 90 and think, damn, maybe I should have listened to that silly little girl on a podcast. I don't know. Maybe you'll be thinking that. Maybe you won't. I hope you're not. The last thing that I think is important to remember is that right is a myth. The right way to have spent your year, the right things to focus on, the right things to do, wasting your year, like not having achieved things, the right things you should have achieved, all of that is a myth, because you get to decide what right is for your life. I have said this before and I'll say it again, your life is not a community project. You decide what is right for your life. For this year, I've made no money. Guys, I have not worked this year. That is, do you know, on paper, and I still suffer from this, or not suffer, like I'm a starving Victorian child, but I am plagued with this thought sometimes. It comes in and it's not mine. This is an example of when you think thoughts that aren't your own and you don't have to listen to them. A thought will come in and it will say, you are 27. This is your young professional years. You should be making money. You should be building yourself up for your future. You should be saving. You should be putting money aside. You should be investing for your future. These are your years to hustle and work and set yourself up for your future. And that could be true. For some people, that is true. And that, for some people, is right. For me, I don't believe that. And so even if some people believe that, I don't have to believe that. And so I could, if I believed that, my whole year was wasted. If I believed that my success and the success of my year was based on how much money I made and how much kind of like business and financial success I made, this year is a fucking failure to me. But I don't, not for this year. That was not my goal for this year. And so only you get to decide what right is and what the right way to spend your year is, what the right way to spend this month is, the next year is. The good thing about that is you can change that at any point. So right now, maybe at the beginning of this episode, you were thinking, okay, I'm clicking on this because I feel like I've wasted my year and I don't know what to do about it. What have you done this year? Because you have done some things. Maybe you feel like you've wasted this year because you haven't traveled enough. Okay, but maybe you saved money. Maybe you focused on your fitness. Maybe you really got into a routine of going to the gym lots, or routines of getting up at the same time. Maybe you were really in a routine and now you've built the ability to kind of stick to habits and routines. So was that wasted? Or maybe the other way, maybe you traveled loads but didn't save any money, but now you've got loads of memories. Is that wasted? You get to decide what a wasted year is. And I think if you look, you can see the things that you have gained from this year, even if it wasn't maybe what you initially planned and what you initially thought it was going to be. And then you can say, okay, this is what I gained from this year. What would I have loved to have been able to say about this year right now? And then set those goals for next year and maybe change your plan of action. And maybe I'll make another episode about this, about how to set goals and actually achieve them. Change your plan of action so you can make it more likely to hit those points next year. Life is short, but it's also long, and you have so much time to figure this shit out. That's what I believe anyway. Unless you die tomorrow, but then you'll be dead, so you won't even matter. Merry Christmas. I'm going to make more episodes about end of year anxiety and like reviews, plans, all of that stuff. You know I love that. Thank you for listening. If you did get to the end of this episode, tell me. I would love to know what your answer for this prompt is. Let me know what was something that you don't celebrate about yourself enough. I really want to know. So tell me that in the comments. Tell me that anywhere. Email me, DM me, write it somewhere. I think that's a special one. I feel like this prompt really set the tone for this episode. I think this was a good episode. Okay. Love you loads. See you in Podmas Day 4. Mwah.